If you are an archer, a drawboard such as this is a vital component to perfecting your craft. Stay tuned, I'll show you how to make one. Welcome back to Vital Point, everybody. This is your host, Andrew Penzi, and today we are looking at drawboards. If you are not familiar with what these are, they are an essential tool for the archer looking to get to the next level. Once you have a drawboard, you can put your bow on there and check things such as the draw length, the pounds that you're shooting, and also check the timing of your bow to make sure that the cams are in sync. Now sure, you could just buy one of these already made, but then you might as well just throw your wallet away too, because you can make one of these very easily and very cheap. Most of the ones you buy are meant to be mounted to a permanent workbench type of situation. The great thing about this one is it's versatile. I could bring this with me anywhere, set it up on any table I want. If I really wanted to, I could throw a couple screws in there in the front and mount it to the front of a workbench. When I'm not using it, I just put it in my closet out of the way. Do you guys do your own bow tuning? I'll tell you, I never used to until I made one of these, and I've learned a lot about my bow. It's really a whole new aspect of the sport. I made this drawboard out of a 2x8 to start with, just because that's what I had around. But in all honesty, if I redid it again, I'd probably make it out of a 2x6 or maybe even a 2x4 would be fine. Now, in order to rest this on a horizontal surface and not worry about the handle of this winch hitting anything, I made a little L bracket out of a 2x4 there. The winch is mounted using 3 bolts here into the existing winch holes that were there. That way, when cranking the handle, there's no obstruction. The total length of this board is just over 5 feet, but the space between the handle and the front of the winch here is just over 4 feet. I found that allows me enough room to be able to put a scale on there to check my draw pounds and still not interfere with anything. I got a cheap ruler here to be able to check my draw length, and it zeroes out right at where the handle meets this post. I used this metal bracket here and screwed that in to hold the handle of the bow, but you could use anything that'll hold the pounds that you're shooting securely, whether it's a wooden post, a metal pipe mounted there, anything that's going to be solid and not give. I put a little extra piece of wood under the bottom of the bracket just to give it some extra support. Now I got this winch from Harbor Freight Tools, very cheap. I think it was in the neighborhood of like 20 bucks. And the most expensive contraption on here is probably my scale, but you can get a cheaper one if you wanted. I use this for just about everything, so I wanted something heavy duty, not only to measure my bows, but I use it to weigh deer and all sorts of stuff. To get started, I like to take my quiver right off the bow, that way there's no obstructions, and then just hook the handle of your bow right on the little hanger here. It's a good idea to have the bow so that the limb stops or cable stops are pointing up, that way you can see exactly when they hit. To hook the scale together to the bow, you need 2 pieces of cord, one a little bit larger than the other. Start by putting the bigger loop right over the hook of the scale. Next, put on the smaller loop. Next, the small loop goes right through the D loop, and then back on. That's on there, nice and secure. Next, for safety, you get the bigger loop and wrap right around the back of the string, behind the D loop, and back on. Now this rubber band here comes in really handy, just to put over the metal here and make sure that the ropes don't come off until you make everything tight. Turn your scale on, and then you can start cranking. As tension comes on, just make sure that everything is lined up properly. Don't over crank. Pay careful attention to where your limb stops are or your cable stops, and you just want to go to where they meet. Here comes the let off. Once the cam stops are in their position, I don't want to make it any tighter. So you can see I had a peak weight of just about 60 pounds on this. With the let off, I'm down under 15 pounds. So it really helps you explain a couple things about your bow. You can see your cam stops there. And you can see this one's a little bit out of tune because I have a little space on this side and no space on this side. When the bow is drawn back like this, be very careful. Never put your hands within that string area. Safety first. You'll see I put a little pad on the front of the wood there just so that I don't scratch up the bow at all. Now you note I just put a couple marks on here just so that I know which way this clicker has to go in order to tighten, to be neutral or loosen. To let it down, I'm going to flip this over to the loosen position And very carefully, keep your hand on this to keep control, slowly let it down. And there you have it, a simple DIY drawboard. You could do it yourself and learn a bit about your bow in the process. Hey, if you guys learned something, give me a thumbs up, and I will catch you next time right here on Vital Point.